The presentation tonight is not much different. I think the difference is that we are, as a committee, beginning to understand it even more. I'm going to turn it over to Sally to do the history part of this.
The history of Lackawanna and bad education, and Lackawanna and bad took over bad control of education in the 70s. During the 70s, the first one on board was Sucker River in 1974, followed by Grandmother's Bay and Stanley Mission in 1976. The Ranch followed shortly in 1977. Hall Lake didn't come on board until 1984, and Little Red is in 1997. But since then, Little Red has partnered up with Montreal Lake, so they're not part of our team. During this time, we had our first and only Lackawanna Indian Band Teacher Training Program.
Some of the things that happened, currently the Lackawanna Indian Band, how are we doing this? We're administering out of the LaRange office, Sucker River, going to Hall Lake. And we have the 2 schools in LaRange. What we're trying to do with this is bring everybody back together. Stanley Mission, Grandmother's Day. We're trying to bring us together again. I started working for the LaRange Band back in '83 as a principal teacher at the alternate program. We were all together. I just started back again. I left after 7 years. I left in 1990 and then got back again in August of last year. And I'm finding that in order for this to work, the Education Authority, everybody has to be on the same page as far as the kinds of things we need to do. We need to put together an Education Act, which we don't have anybody. Right now, the communities of Stanley Mission, Grandmother's Bay, policies, procedures, processes. So we need to change that, or that would happen if we all agreed to go with an Education Authority.
So, what Chief Council has proposed is a centralized authority which respects the diversity of Lackawanna Indian Band communities while ensuring cooperation among the communities to gain the benefits. So if you work together, the communities used to all work together, things ran fairly well. They started to split apart, things aren't running quite as well. You don't get the student supports that you have now. Get everybody working together again, getting additional dollars, you can put in place those student supports that you need at all the schools. And then you can look at it from school to school. Okay, the school here at Hall Lake might need different student supports than the school in Stanley Mission and the one in Grandmother's Bay. But if you're coordinated, you can move your people around, or you can have people shared between places and things like that. And that's part of what a central education authority can do.
So where do we start when we talk about an education authority? We need to look at the delivery model, because First Nations education is changing. It's ever evolving. The INAC, Indian Affairs, has told us we need to change. And if you do change, this is what we can do for you. My question at all the meetings that I've been at since I started back in August is, why can't you do that now? And I have yet to get a straight answer from them. So they're wanting us to do the Education Authority piece. And so we're saying, okay, good idea. We'll explore the options. Give us some money to explore the options. So they gave us money for the first year, which is coming to an end the end of March. And what we've done from our office in LaRange is put together a 3-year proposal so that we can work this through. I'm really hoping that we're done with the Education Authority in just over 2 years.
So an education authority, what we're looking at, pros. It's focused on First Nation student outcomes. Everything we want to do, we want to make sure that you're supporting the students and getting them up to where they should be. Right now, because of the underfunding and lack of supports that underfunding causes, a lot of our students are not at the same level as provincial students. And if you look even at the rural students, rural provincial students, they're not at the same level as the kids in town because there's more supports in the cities. The funding would be based on student needs, so you'd include language and culture. You'd include all your student supports that you need. There would be increased funding for education, and the government has indicated that. Like she said, $6,600 approximately now per student. Just over $14,000 is what Northern Lights School Division gets currently. But INAC has indicated that $14,000, that just gets you equal funding. You need equitable funding. You need funding to bring your students up to an equal footing, right? So then it would be 14,000 plus, and there's been studies done, and it's about 30% more than $14,000. So that's another $4,200. So you're looking at about $18,000 in funding.
And some of the people who are looking at this right now, some of the other First Nations that are doing this, the same thing that we're doing, and PAGC is still out, the one because PAGC is still going to be there. There's other First Nations within the Prince Albert Grand Council, we're only one of them. And we still have some tamang mag-isipin sa notice paminso check. Di ba makita ni Taswood sa Eastern Woodland, Eastern Creek. We still have
Oh, yeah, the eastern sector, PAGC, yeah, Shoal Lake, River, Cumberland House.
Moving to the far north, we still have the mga point to be mo that was with PAGC that gusto niya mo disband, but maybe it'll go right directly to there, but it has to go back to Taswood's chief gateway. They can't do it unless they have at least 1,000 students. Like an individual First Nation, if grandmothers wanted to go in on their own, they wouldn't be able to. Because you have to have a minimum of 1,000 students. And you have to have multi-community.
And community discussions, they're required. We need to talk to Chief and Council. We need to keep Chief and Council informed as to what's going on when we come to our public meeting. That's why we're recording. That's why he's taking pictures. We need to do that, and we want to start focus groups. If you're interested in what's going on with education and the changes that we're making, we'll be putting a call out and saying we're going to start a focus group about such and such a thing, maybe about how governance should be structured, maybe it'll be about how parental involvement can become a bigger part of what goes on in your school. Please volunteer to be on one of those focus groups, because it's important that we get together and we talk it out. Okay? The elders group, students group, community members, school staff, and the discussions that we have will revolve around student supports that are required. What will the governance structure look like? You see, that's why we come out. We don't know what it looks like. We don't know what you want at this point in time. And maybe the next time we come around for our third round of community meetings or meetings in the community, we might give you 3 ideas as to what it could possibly look like, but those aren't the ones that are the real ones. The real ones will come from you. The real structure will come from you. And I'm serious about that, because we need your input. It's the only way it'll work. Organization chart, and what will the funding be? I'm going to leave you with a little thought here, and then I'll continue, but I want you to just take a moment and think about what is your dream for education in your community? Currently in our school programs, we have the following, and you can see that some of them up there have some in brackets, which means not all of our schools are doing what others are doing. Provincial curriculum, from what we understand, everybody is following the provincial curriculum. It's the subjects and the information that goes into those subjects. It's all done by the province, and that's what we use to teach out. We also encourage our teachers to do some of the locally developed stuff to modify the information so that it's reflective of Lac Orange Indian Band. What do we want to see in the future? What are some of the things that we're looking at? Okay, again, local curriculum, traditional and holistic teaching. Develop a sense of belonging, not only with students, but with the community, with the parents, with the elders, that they feel like they're part of that school. Lifelong learning, responsive school. We should have trades in our schools. When we talk about teachers in our system, what are we looking for? Here are some of the things. We need a teacher who's inspiring, who's committed, who's professional, who's caring, who's supportive, knowledgeable, able to develop capacity, is a valued individual in that school that wants to be there, makes kids feel valued. Needs to be passionate. Needs to be able to teach our children to live in two worlds. It's a fact of life. I mean, our kids are at home watching TV, they're getting that side of the world. We need to teach them our side as well. And that's where culture comes in. The teacher needs to have energy, needs to be enthusiastic. And again, we ask the question, what else do you want to see in your teachers? Ask yourselves that, pass it along, we'll get it. If you have ideas today, it's being recorded. Right now, because we get the core, which only addresses our core of our class, we don't get money for First Nation student success programs. We don't get money for our culture and language programs. We have to write proposals for those. We don't get money for RMO, which is our special education. We have to write proposals for those. If we go our own education authority, we don't have to write proposals anymore. We don't even have to apply directly to Indian Affairs anymore. We can go directly to Treasury Board, and it'll be an annual thing. It'll just keep revolving out of that. It'll take away that whole proposal thing. We get additional funding, we get targeted funding. We'll have the financial control. It'll be a separate entity. However it's governed, it'll still be a separate entity away from the Chief and Council as far as what the Chief and Council do. And I'm not saying they can't be the board. What I'm saying is that they need to look at it differently, and the money in education stays in education. Human resources, I've said before, and then the board composition, and we don't know what that's going to look like, the board composition. Because if we set up our own structure, we'll need a board to operate it.
Types of supports you can have. You can have in the community supports, you can have more elders, you can have leadership group supports, trying to get improved parental involvement, community involvement, second level services support, speech and language pathologists, numeracy, literacy consultants, special education consultants, right here at Orange, not based out of Prince Albert or wherever they come from. Some of them are based in Orange right now, but some of it I know comes out of Prince Albert. How often do they have it in the schools here? When they're based here, they can deal with their students and with anything going on much quicker. Shared services, resources, technology, ensuring it's all up to date.
Facilities, we could look at facilities in a more favorable light. If you remember earlier, we talked about getting monies for capital projects. It might be easier. That cannot be guaranteed that we would get all that stuff right off the bat. But it's something that would be more pressure put on governments, because we would have a united board that would be responsible for all our schools. Okay? and we could upgrade some of our buildings that are out there. As you heard earlier, LaRange alone is getting 70 kindergarten teachers next year. Where are we going to put them? But something else we could do, is getting together with mental health, providing the services, which is something that really came out when we got into that crisis where we lost young people to suicide last fall. We can maintain that and continue to bring that together so we have counseling and we provide safe environment. We get our schools to become bully-free and we can leave alcohol and drugs out of our schools. I think it's still happening that we're having students that are coming in that are under the influence. And our teachers, our staff are dealing with them that, but if we can get them educated to understand what those things do to their bodies, maybe we can become alcohol and drug free in our schools. That would be just awesome. Another question for you to think about. What will you need to make your dream come true? So we talked about what is your dream. Now that you're thinking about that, what will you need to make it come true? And then we have funding ideas, and then we talk about culture and language on here, but there's nutrition funding, equity funding. That's interesting, equity funding. Which was 3 kids all standing on a box to look at a ball game. The tallest one was able to see the ball game, but they were all equal, right? They all had a box to stand on. The second one could just barely see over the fence to look at the ball game. And the little guy still standing on the box, which was the same size box, was not able to see the ball game. So they changed it around. They took the box away from the other one and gave it to the little guy, so the tall guy could still see the game, the guy in the middle could still see the game, and the little guy now had 2 boxes to stand on, could now see the game. That's equity. Even though he had more boxes, that's equity. That's what we mean when we talk about equity. Human resources, we need to look at, teachers and staff that are committed, that are experts, that are professional, creative, all of those things there. How do we achieve that? We achieve that when we get extra dollars, when we can pay our teachers the same level as other teachers are getting in this province that work for the provincial systems. There's something called the Saskatchewan Teachers Federation. They go and negotiate on behalf of all the teachers that are part of that federation. And that the same salary gets paid throughout the province to all their teachers. So we want to do the same thing, because if we're able to do that, then we don't have teachers hanging on and hoping to get on to teach for the province when they can come and teach for us for the same amount of dollars that they would if they went to the province. Integrated services with parents, elders, community leadership, specialized services. We could do that. Board member training. The infrastructure, as I was way back when, realized that provincial schools were larger classroom schools. When we got the First Nations and band schools, they were much smaller classrooms, and yet expecting us to have the same number of students as they would in the provincial system. That's slowly changing, but if we were to go on our own and able to get the dollars, we could start building classrooms that are the same size or bigger than what the province is offering. We could look at arenas, we could look at school, kitchen, home ec, all those things that go in there, labs. Get our kids involved in media arts, industrial art shops. One of the things that in the industrial art shops that we could be doing, and maybe we're doing it already. Maybe I'm just behind the times and haven't caught up to where we're at and what we're doing right now. But industrial arts, you get the grade 10, grade 11, and grade 12 students. They can work towards getting their first year apprenticeship by taking industrial arts. In whatever area that they're looking at. So the education resources are community driven. You can translate books, you can do resource development, and provide the supports for what's being taught.
Masane he says, oh Masane he says, it's getting my